Welcome to the Recovered Podcast, episode 1453. Working Step 12 is the vital culmination of the entire recovery process, a transition from seeking help to providing it. This step centers on the promise that having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. This episode will explore how this awakening is rarely a sudden white light event, but rather a gradual psychic change that removes the obsession to drink. By moving into Step 12, members shift their focus outward, embracing the paradox that they must give away what they have found in order to keep it. Tonight we talk about Step 12.
The Recovered Podcast is a self-supporting community. If you are enjoying the show, we would love for you to consider becoming either a sustaining partner or an episode sponsor. Just tap the Sustaining Partner link in the show notes to join the community. I'd like to recognize this week's Sustaining Partners, Nicole. Now, if you'd like to become an episode sponsor, just tap the episode sponsor link in the show notes. Your support keeps us online and available to the new person in recovery. So Tina, Helen, and Dana, this episode is for you. All right, let's start the show tonight. My name is Mark, and I'll be your host. Along with me is Brandy, and we got Molly and Matt. How are you people?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Weep, 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 weep.
So pull up a couch and join us on this journey called life.
As a reminder, we at the Recovered Podcast aren't speaking on behalf of any specific 12-step community. We simply aim to share our personal experiences, strengths, and hopes within our recovery journeys. While we're open about our stories, we also value and maintain our anonymity.
But tonight, the topic is, well, let's don't talk about the podcast. Let's do the podcast. So tonight, Molly, the episode topic is Step 12. But first, a public service announcement. During my sabbatical, my podcast hosting community decided to do away with my premium subscription service and no longer supports my standalone Recovered Podcast apps. So as a result, we have lost 70% of our revenue stream. So we are really reliant on the episode sponsors and the sustaining partners. So thank you very much for participating in that way. Now, we are working on finding alternatives to providing premium subscriptions on another platform. In the meantime, all the Recovered Podcast episodes can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. It's available there. All right, back to the show. But again, first, the live stream. We are thrilled to announce that we are officially planning to launch the Recovered Podcast live stream on YouTube. Our goal is to have all the necessary hardware purchased and the platform fully configured by June 1st, allowing us to bring you a more immersive and real-time experience. This new format will feature an interactive chat room open to everyone in the Recovered Podcast Google group, providing a dedicated space to join the conversation, engage directly with the co-hosts, and connect with fellow fans as the show happens. If you want to be part of these live discussions, make sure you sign up for our Google group today. I'll be sharing the exact details on how you can join a little later in the broadcast. All right, here we go. The second half of the journey involves the active practice of these principles in the messiness of everyday life. Carrying the message isn't about professional counseling or promotion, but about attraction through example. This includes everything from formal sponsorship to the simple act of being a warm, non-judgmental presence for a newcomer. By applying virtues like honesty, humility, and service to our careers and relationships, members can find that 12-step is not a finish line, but a new way of living that transforms past trials into sources of hope for others. All right, that's how we lead in Molly, but I want to get your first thoughts on this topic of Step 12. When Step 12 becomes a topic at your meetings, what usually comes first to mind for you, Molly?
For me, it's like the second half of Step 12, like carry these principles in all of our affairs. And that's just like the friendly reminder that my recovery doesn't end when I leave a meeting, or it doesn't have boundaries, that I only like act at my best when I'm like around people from the program or I'm in a meeting, that it's this is a life shift. This is stuff I can apply to real life. And that's like how I try to like lead by example, not just for other sober people, but for like all people.
Awesome, Matt. It's good to see you again. Welcome back to the virtual studio. I appreciate you showing up last week, even though we had a fatal crash, but we're trying again, and so far so good.
These things happen.
All right. I'm glad. Thank you for being patient and showing up this week. But step 12, what does that mean to you?
Well, I think just it's like a two-part thing. Like Molly just said, the second half, and obviously that means there's a first half where I kind of more, I guess, consciously think about the second half more than, like, to me, going to as many meetings as I go to, like, I think that, like, I know I'm pretty well covered in, like, carrying the message. I'm at a meeting most nights, so, like, for me, it's kind of like the reminding to do this all the time, all the principles, but learning the principles and how to practice them, that kind of happens by doing the first half, I think, for me anyway.
Awesome. So, Brandy, that's what we do. We kind of throw it around the table first time through. So, Brandy, this is your first time on the Recovered podcast. Isn't that true?
Yes. Thank you for having me.
What do you think so far?
I'm enjoying it. Molly is one of my good friends, so this is entertaining already.
It is a love fest already. In the pregame show, there was definitely that kind of banter. But, Brandy, it's good to have you here. So step 12, what does that mean to you? When you saw the notes, maybe you thought of something else you don't want to forget. What's up?
Well, I agree with both Matt and Molly. I will say, for me, the importance of the spiritual awakening portion of that step. So not thinking in the same way I used to, but having worked these 12 steps gives me that spiritual awakening. And so that I can be of service to others and carry the message. I agree with the second part, but for me, it's really about the change in myself so that I can even be of service to others.
For me, Molly, carrying the message. I mean, that's really what the Recovered podcast is really all about. It's this platform that allows us to be able to be available to the new person that might be really afraid, right? And is really searching and really needs a community. And so here we are. And, through the experience of my son, Andrew, we carried the message. He took me to my first meeting, saved my life. I am forever grateful for the experience of Andrew in my life because it stuck. And for him, it was a struggle. And it ended with him, dying by suicide as a result of relapse. And so what a tragedy. And it really made me focus on what does it mean to carry the message now, right? Is the message positive? Because I'm all fucked up in my head. I don't feel very positive. And so it really took a lot of work with sponsors and other people to really try to understand this experience and what does it mean for me in my recovery. And my sponsor said, well, what you can do is you can honor Andrew and his memory. You can honor Andrew in your recovery, in this message that you have, in this experience that you have, all the awesome things that were as a result of my experience with Andrew. First of all, my recovery. Second of all, it was the 12 Steps guidance groups. It was Canton Candlelight. These meetings that we were so involved in, and then Canton Candlelight he was involved in launching that. He also encouraged me to start this podcast. And so it is my responsibility. It is my responsibility to first and foremost to stay sober and carry a positive message because recovery is possible for everyone, even for me, and even for all of us that have gone through life because life is difficult, but we have tools today. We have tools today to help us cope and not only cope, but transform our lives into something that is positive, that can transform into a message that can help someone else. And that's why I'm doing this. That's why I show up every week. I don't want to fucking do this. I'm all up in technology here and the difficulty of it. It's hard. But I've made a commitment, right? I've made a commitment. So I'm gonna try and show up and do my best. And so here we go. This is a result. It's how I live it. Molly, the thing that jumped out for you, you let in that, practice these principles in all your affairs, not just in meetings, and to be your best out there. Yeah. So how do you apply these principles, these steps out there? What does that mean?
It started like slowly, just like in your first year of sobriety. It was probably around then, and you're like getting your sea legs back and starting to feel good and starting to feel like a productive member of society. And I just found myself suddenly, like, in everyday life, like, I was living with my parents, and grateful for them for that. And my dad would be like frustrated with something, and I'd be like, you know what, Dad, it seems like you could use some acceptance, that you just need a little bit of, like, oh, you should say the serenity prayer. Like, it just started popping up, and I'm like saying this kind of jokingly, but it's true. Like, it just started like popping up everywhere. And that's when it really hit me that I was like, oh, this is not only stuff to like stay sober, this is stuff to help keep me feeling grounded and peaceful, and almost like though putting up the barriers to the next drink. Like, it was like, we're gonna help you dry out and stay sober, but we're gonna then give you tools to not want to go back and pick up again. And I feel like that's just, I'm getting a little jumbled all over the place, but it's like, just, you start to see all of the steps and all the things you're learning in the program in real life. And then suddenly you make it to step 12, and it's like, practice these principles in all of your affairs. And I was like, I'm kind of already doing that. Like, it just, if you put yourself in the middle of it and let it soak into your entire life, it's very easy and very rewarding.
So Matt, you opened up by talking about the second half of the 12th step, and that is carrying this message. And you go to lots of meetings, and you carry the message into those meetings. But talk to me, why do you go to so many meetings? You do go to a lot of meetings. What's your sobriety date, Matt?
My sobriety date is October 14th, 2013.
Boom.
So it's been 12 years and some change. But I guess I don't know. It's been a weird journey to get, like, I basically go every day. Like, if I don't go, like, I didn't go on Saturday and Sunday over the weekend for the first time in quite a while. Was since I missed 2 days, like that. I missed 2 days in a row where I wasn't like out of town or something. But that was I was just like, I don't know, man. It's fucking 10 degrees outside, and there's 3 feet of snow and everything else. So it's not like I'm like, I don't sit there and, like, try to venerate it and have it be something that I'm proud of. If anything, I feel like over the years, it was like, I feel like there's something wrong with me. Like, people, like, usually they get sober and they don't go to as many meetings, and they're like, they go once or twice a week or what, something like that. And, but for me, like, that's the amount of meetings it takes for me to, like, stay on the ball and not mad at everybody and everything, and just, and in, like, I do think that also, like, very much the reality of the situation is, like, I am lazy, and if I take the 12th step at it, like, the actual core of the step is, like, you have to help another alcoholic because some alcoholic helped you back when you really, really needed it. And, like, I am not going to, like, other than this podcast, like, I don't go out and seek it. I don't go to, like, I don't do sober events. Like, I don't do sober fun stuff. Like, I don't, like, seek out the extracurricular stuff. Like, I just go to meetings, and because, like, for me, like, that's what works. So, like, if I don't do any of the other stuff, I have to do that stuff, or else I'm just using the program when I feel like I'm sad and want to go, like, get tapped back into something spiritual that makes me feel a certain kind of way. So, like, as much as it, like, on its surface is perhaps like, like, oh gosh, that's a lot of meetings to go to. You must like fucking love AA. It's like, nah, I'm just kind of lazy and it's my routine. And it's just what's worked for me over the years. And I started going every day, probably my third or fourth year sober, somewhere in there, in between year 3 and 4. And it just kind of has stuck ever since.
I love that. Nah, I'm lazy, but no, I'm not. I'm really not, because I go to a meeting every single day, every day. That's awesome. And if you're new, I mean, this thing we call recovery, once you get some steps behind you and get some clarity, it really becomes a lifestyle. This becomes embedded in who we are.
Yeah.
And we get to tailor this program around what keeps us on our beam. You talked about, being away from tables for a couple of days, and you knew that wasn't right for you. That wasn't good for you. And so you knew what the answer was. And that's the awesome thing, is that we get to know who we are and what we need, and the freedom to be able to go ahead and do that.
Right. And one of the things though, that I will say to that is, it's like, I'm not sitting there like after 2 days, 12 years sober, like sitting like, boy, I want to drink. Like,
right.
Like to drink doesn't really ever cross my mind anymore. So like I have the luxury of that. But like when I was like new, like my first year or two, like I was going to like 2 or 3 meetings a day. Like I could only handle 4 or 5 hours of reality at a time. Like, so in a weird way, it ultimately like, all right, this is about how much the metronome ticks. Like if I go once a day, I'm always reminded that I'm being of service, I'm doing the thing, I'm carrying the message, I'm practicing the 12th step by being at a meeting regularly. And this is like, there's a thing that old Dick Track used to say all the time, where he was new and was talking to somebody where he was saying, well, how long do you got to go to these things? Like, because some of these people, said they've been sober for, forever. And keep in mind, Dick was telling the story, he'd been sober almost 50 years. And he was like, and the guy told him, you got to go until you want to go. And then you just go, And that made sense.
Is Dick still around?
No, he just passed away this past winter. Yeah.
Good guy.
Yeah.
All right,
guy.
Brandy, you opened up talking about that spiritual awakening. You really focused on that. So how does this help you carry the message? What is it about a spiritual awakening that allows you to carry message?
So for me, the first 11 steps give me a foundation for my sobriety, and they have me practicing. So like Molly said, once I've gotten through these 11 steps, it's in my everyday life. Yeah. Everything about sobriety makes up my everyday life. I can only be accountable because I have the sobriety. Like, the program tells me you got to live an honest program. So it's a lot harder to lie when you have that chirping in your ear, like, oh, are you going to make amends for that? And this is just like a side note, you don't want to have to make amends to people you don't like. So you will definitely be keeping yourself on your own P's and Q's. But the spiritual awakening, so like you've worked all these steps, you have this new way of thinking. You've got a new way of living, and it makes it that much easier to carry the message. In my opinion, like, you are then the message. So when I got sober, I was able to turn things around, and anybody who was around me, family members, friends who were also struggling but didn't know that there was like another way to live, they used me as a resource. They could see that I didn't have to be that way forever. And here we are, some 24 hours later, carrying that message.
Awesome. So that's how it's done. But Molly, let's go ahead and jump into the notes, and we're going to jump right into that big topic, spiritual awakening. And the big book talks about that white light experience that Bill W. had, and, realization that not everybody has that. As a matter of fact, very few people have that. And that for most of us, it's a gradual change. But Molly, can you think of some specific moment in your early recovery where you noticed this change, this shift in your perspective happening?
Yes. I desperately wanted the clouds opening up, like Monty Python in the Holy Grail style, where there was going to be like a very a bearded guy being like, and this is your spiritual awakening. And no, that did not happen. But I remember very specifically, I was driving back to my parents' house, and I think I was like 3 or 4 months sober, and the sun was setting, and I thought to myself, oh, wow, that is so beautiful. And I was like, look at that. That is so beautiful. And like took a moment to just like look at, and like, I don't think I had ever taken a moment to appreciate a sunset before. And I think there was like just a moment of peace and gratitude. And I don't even think I realized it at the time, but that's stayed with me for a long time, that I'm like, well, maybe this is it. Like it's the little things. And I have since then, like, I get really excited about little things, and it's very genuine, and that's how I continue like my spiritual awakening, is to like keep spreading joy and feeling joy and gratitude. But I would say that moment specifically, driving the 2010 Ford Escape that I bought off my grandparents when I moved back to Michigan, was like the first time I had felt some peace in probably like maybe ever up until that moment.
What an awesome thing that is, right? The program affords us that opportunity to be grateful for those things that we've always had. Sunsets have always been part of our lives, right?
I was like, you guys know this is out here? You guys seen this before?
News at 11.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Matt, for you, let's talk about this helping others thing. For you, what is it about that? What is it about helping others at the meetings that you go to, the new person that you meet at the Canton Candlelight? What is it about that helps your program?
Well, I guess like I look at it as like I'm a selfish, self-centered person, and that's the problem. Like it seems like alcohol was the root of all my trouble, and if I could just figure out how to not screw it up with booze, but you learn by going to meetings and by practicing this, principles and going over the steps with the sponsor, that like at the end of the day, like alcohol is a symptom of the problem, like not the problem. So a good way to get out of one's selfishness seems to be the obvious answer, is to like think about other people, help other people, like treat other people the way you would like to be treated, instead of spending so much time, thinking about yourself and why you're not getting the things you want, and why the world sucks, and why, you're never going to have the things that other people have, and this kind of shit. So really at the end of the day, it's just like, it is the treatment to the malady, is to think of other people instead of yourself and help them as best you can.
So, Brandy, here's an easy question. You ready for this one?
So ready.
For you, what is a spiritual awakening? What does that mean?
Okay, so I mean, I'm just gonna go back to like it's literally thinking differently and living differently because you're thinking differently.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. There's the circle. Fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it. You're gonna leave it right there.
Oh, I mean, well, look, because like here, I keep thinking I'm gonna think that I am like putting myself forward as like I used to be a really big liar, and I was sitting there thinking about like what's my response. But actually, yeah, I used to be a really big liar. So one of like the best, I guess like moments where I realized, oh, I think I'm really living this program, is when I used to drink. I would wake up and I'd say like, "Hey, mom," or "Hey, dad," and I'd gauge how they responded. And say, oh, shoot, like, I can't remember what happened the night before. So, like, however they responded is like, oh, shoot, I'm in trouble, or no, I'm not, right? When I got sober, I didn't have to think about that anymore. And it was crazy to just wake up and know what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
I didn't have to tell a lie. Whatever I told, the story I told is what happened. And I don't have to remember like, how did I change this to make myself sound better? Yeah. So yeah, it just, changes the way you're thinking, which changes the way you live.
So Molly, let's go ahead and talk about some of these principles. And you talked about, living those out there. So some of these principles that are in the program, such as honesty, humility, service, faith, those kinds of things, which one do you find most difficult to practice out there, especially for people that are difficult?
I'm trying to tick through I used to lie and manipulate a lot too to maintain drinking, but I found honesty kind of came easy because I was not, again, like Brandy kind of said, I wasn't trying to cover up secrets anymore. I would say I'm trying to think of how they apply to work, because that's where I get the least spiritual is when I'm at work and trying to do the right thing because it's the right thing and not because I will get some sort of trophy or pat on the back. And it's particularly with a coworker who I feel I don't always get that help back. But I should still help them because it's the right thing to do. And they're my teammate and I should do that. And that will reflect better on me going forward. But there are times when I'm sitting and I'm why should I do any fucking thing for you? And it's it's so quick, and I kid you guys not, multiple times throughout the week, I'm Molly, this is so, this is not who you want to be. This is not who you are. Take a breath, say a prayer, listen to a meditation, do something. But it's you're gonna be tested. And so it's the integrity to continue doing the right thing when nobody's watching, when there's no reward. That is ideally who I want to be. But it's it's still hard when we live in a world where you want some kudos. You want the cookie. I want a treat. I want a pat on the back. But I do it better some days than others. I cannot sit here and tell you that today that coworker got in trouble a little bit, and maybe I chuckled and maybe I enjoyed it a little more than I should have. But here's me telling on myself. Kinda. Now I'm do I owe him an amends? He doesn't know I laughed. Patience, love, and tolerance. That's our code, right? There we go.
Oh my goodness.
There
so I have a neighbor. I have a neighbor. Have I ever told you about my neighbor? Patient, loves, and tolerance. So I've been here for 25 years, and so has he. And so it's been a struggle. We've ebbed and flowed, and we've warred and battled, and we've also got along sometimes. And it still is a challenge for me. And I finally came up with a solution. You know what that is, Molly?
What?
I'm moving.
I'm looking for a new job.
All right, so we're working the same program. All right, Matt, let's talk about these principles, these things such as honesty, humility, service. When you were new, and you're looking across the table, and you were looking for a sponsor, or you're looking for some people to start to bond with, what did you find most attractive? What principles were most attractive that made you wanted to be part of this thing?
Well, I mean, I don't think I was anywhere near coherent enough to be thinking about the principles at that time in my life. Yeah. It was more so my first sponsor, I went almost close to a year without getting a sponsor, and then when I did, it was just I was so desperately miserable that somebody asked me do you need a sponsor, and I was no, fuck off, basically. And then just wallowed in my misery for a little while longer, and then just realized there's no way out, I have to do it, and so begrudgingly started working the steps with him and proceeded to get better from that point forward. But then I'm not going to air out old dirty laundry, but things went south with that, and I stayed sober through all of it. And then there was a lot of chaos, and at the beginning, it was of course it was chaotic, and then somewhere along the line, like around then, you became my sponsor, and that's been the way it's gone for probably a decade now. So like,
That's right.
so like, but like I kind of look back at it and like I think it would be disingenuous of me to say, well, this is the principle I was thinking about. It was like, nah, like everything was fucking crazy, and I just was like barely hanging on. But like I too was kind of like a liar. Like I just looked at myself as like, I just lie about everything. I lie for sport. I'm George Costanza, like it's not a lie if you believe it. And I had to get honest with myself and realize that I needed a sponsor. I had to work the program the way that everybody else worked it. I couldn't like secretly smoke weed, not tell anybody. I couldn't do the stuff that I knew was wrong and then go to a table and listen to somebody pouring their heart out who is actually trying to do it, and then get to me and be like, well, it was always just alcohol. I think I can still smoke weed. Like it just sort of, the principles like honesty, I think was probably, to take a circuitous route to the answer you're looking for, perhaps, is just like, I needed a lot more honesty in my life. So people that were, speaking from the heart and had experience and were practicing what I thought was a more honest program, I tried to at least, if not befriend them, I at least like paid more attention to what they were saying during meetings and hope that maybe some of that would rub off on me so that in my regular daily life I could try to be a little bit more honest as well.
Honesty was a big thing for me too, man. I appreciate you bringing that up. After my first sponsor, Jeff, moved back to Florida, I was on the hunt, and I'm looking for somebody that's got some sobriety. And this one particular person's talked about him, being 20 years in the program. And, he talked a good game, right? And so I asked him to be my sponsor. And then, one of our first meetings, I found out that it wasn't 20 years. He's been 20 years in the program, but he's only been 2 years sober continuously. It's like, whoa, there's a red flag for me. I said, thank you very much, but I think I need to find someone else that's got a little bit more time behind him. And I moved on. And I have that privilege, and I have that, I need to do what's right for me. And I needed honesty in my life. And I didn't feel like he was being honest with me. So anyway, I don't want to be judgmental. And maybe that's not what he always said. I heard him say he was 20 years in the program, but maybe that wasn't his regular, talk. But that's what I heard, and that's what I bit on, and I decided I needed to go a different way. Mm-hmm. Brandy, let's talk about this helping others, and like you'd expand on this because other people have talked about this a little bit. But how does helping others help your program? How has that maybe even moved you towards a spiritual awakening?
So for me, service was always really important. So I came into the program without a license. I refused to open the letter that the state of Michigan sent to me. So that meant that I didn't not have a license because I didn't know, but I knew. Yeah. And so I drove around until I got pulled over. And that cop was a really nice guy because he just said my license was expired. But I couldn't renew it because I didn't have one. So it was very nice of him, right? And after that, I had to rely on people to take me to meetings, pick me up. Like people took me grocery shopping. They took me to get my hair cut. And these are not my parents. These were just people in the program. And I watched how being of service they seemed to really enjoy it. Wasn't an inconvenience. We would chat. Maybe we'd grab a bite to eat. And so I wanted to give away what had been so freely given to me. And I just feel like being of service to others is the easiest. It's actually like a pretty easy way. It feels like it wouldn't be, like it would be a burden somehow, or it would be time consuming. But it feels good to pick up a newcomer and take them to a meeting and watch them experience the peace and love that the program offers. Typically, for most meetings that I take them to, for their first time around. But I just think like being helpful was something that attracted me because it got me out of myself, and into just, I don't know, like selflessness, I guess, which is something I didn't know I needed. I could have never said I was selfish. No.
Molly, has the obsession to drink been removed for you?
Yes.
Do you know when?
Yeah.
Do you know when that happened?
Yeah, like month 2 or 3.
Month 2 or 3. So it happened pretty early on for you.
I would say so, but I had also, like, to be fair, I had been, I wouldn't even say I relapsed because I never got sober, but I had been, like, aware I had a drinking problem and trying to control it and stop for at least a year. But once I was introduced to AA, I think I was really, that I was at the end of my rope already after some attempts to do it, like, on my own with other programs. Sorry, that's my dog who wants to participate. So I would say, like, it had just been, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired for so long.
What do you think, Molly, for you would be a red flag towards you marching towards that next drink? What do you really have to watch?
Like, what keeps me from the next drink?
Yeah, for me, it's selfishness. You know, if I wallow in selfishness, it makes me miserable. And I know if I leave myself miserable long enough, I'm going to want relief. I'm going to want escape. For you, can you relate to that at all?
Oh, yeah. I think I said this at a meeting on Friday, that Friday night I'd had, like, a long day, and it's been, I think, I don't know for the folks on this podcast right now, but this winter has been felt particularly brutal. Like,
it's a real winter this year, for sure.
Yeah, like, I pinched a nerve at the beginning of December, and so I was, like, couch bound. I wasn't moving. It's dark. It's cold. And so, like, the seasonal depression has been, like, very real. And on Friday, I had said, like, I had the thought, damn, this is why I used to black out all the time. Like, because I just wanted, like, a break from, like, my brain and the world. And, like, I just wanted to, like, shut off for a minute. And I guess what, like, keeps me from that first drink is, like, first, like, playing the tape through. Like, immediately, a voice that I've trained flies up and says, like, how is that going to make anything better? And I was like, okay, what happens when you sober up? Like, what then? What are you going to say to your family? What are you going to say to your friends? Like, what happens then if you want another drink? Like, I have said, and I will say it, it's still so true. Like, I could probably have a glass of wine tonight and I'd be fine. But I'm going to start thinking about it every day and think, oh, what if I had 2? Oh, well, what if I had just, like, 3 glasses of wine? And, like, cut to me in a month and my life's burned to the ground.
Blackout Molly.
Oh, listen, some people, like, normies who are like, I've never blacked out. That's so scary. I'm like, what do you mean?
Oh, my God.
When did I not black out? But
That was the whole purpose.
I know, like, you guys are doing it wrong. But, like, the point is, it's just, like, what keeps me from that is playing that tape through in the reality of, like, I will get 5 minutes of relief, quote unquote, for another, like, potential decade of pain and suffering. Like, and that's just not something I'm going to throw away. And so I go to a meeting and I tell everybody that that's the thought I had.
There you
and
go.
I talk to those people and they say, and I tell them what's going on. And I, like, tell the group chat of sober women who I love so much that I'm like, hey, I'm having a hard time, guys. And then I challenge myself to be positive towards them. Because it's also, for you, Mark, you said it's like the isolating and you get depressed. For me, it's like that voice that's like, well, this is going to be forever. It's going to be like this forever. And you're going to feel like this forever. And that's the voice that can really take over and start to just put all the doubt and all those things you want are never going to happen. Because how could they? Like, it's when the opposite thought is, like, there's so much potential and there's so much life left to live. And I haven't met every person who's going to love me and be my friend and change my life. So it's like letting those positive thoughts really saturate my brain versus the the negative ones. But yeah, sharing the negative thoughts, being honest when you're having a hard time, because I'm going on a long one, guys, but I feel like sometimes in AA, and especially for the newcomers, I would look at folks who had some time behind them with this idea of like their life, they never feel any bad feelings and they're never sad and they have everything they want and I just need to get there, when in reality we're still all just humans doing our best and we struggle and we have hard times and they don't last forever. And then sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down. And that's just life.
So, Matt, what tool have you learned in AA that allows you to navigate the world successfully? Maybe out there in the world, maybe in your family. What tool do you lean into to help you cope?
I mean, I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't have like a big extensive family. So like, I am by myself quite a bit. So for me, it's always just been like movies and books and like you could, I do pretty well by myself for the most part, but navigating that in a healthy way can often be treacherous, where it's just like, if I'm in a bad mood, it's like, kind of like Molly was saying, it's like, well, I'm never going to get this shit anyway and nothing's going to go my way. And it's like, when you're the only person there and you're the judge, jury, and executioner of your fate, like it's just sort of like, of course I'm right. I'm running a fixed game. Like I'm the one who came up with the question and I already know the answer. So it's all just a mess. And, but that's where it's like, go to a meeting, talk to other people, realize that like this feeling that, everything is the absolute worst and is always going to be, is certainly not unique to you and is definitely not unique to alcoholics. And that, you have to ultimately be in a place where you're willing to do the things you don't want to do. Kind of like you were saying at the start, like where it's just, whether it's like sorting out the new technology of a podcast or just sorting out the big picture loneliness and whatever the hell comes for you that day, like some wolf is going to be, howling at the door. And if you're not drinking and you're not using, and all you ever did in life before you got sober was use those things to self-medicate a spiritual malady, like if you don't have that quote unquote medication anymore, then you need something else. And that is where the steps come in, and having a sponsor and having, people that think the same way that you do and try to solve problems the way that you do, which is not often like, especially when you're new, like your intuition is bad. Like, it's like, I'll solve this problem by contacting my ex. Like, like I won't feel so lonely. And even, what's the worst that can happen? And then like, some bad shit happens and you're like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that. And like, but you learn, you talk it out, and you don't drink that day. And then like, in my experience, like I looked at it as like, I got to a year sober, which means any day of the year, like I did this once already. I made it through this day once. Like, and if I did it once, I can do it again. And, next thing you know, you pile up a few thousand days and it's just like, I've done this thousands of times now. So it's easier, but it never becomes easy. And being able to like, be okay with the fact that like, it's something you do thousands of times and it's never going to become easy, can be its own problem, and like, why the fuck am I doing it if it's never going to become easy? Like, you remember why you're doing it in the beginning, because it's like your life is a disaster and it's not anymore. And it's easy to remember, like, I'm doing this because my life was moments ago a disaster, and now it's so much better. But you get used to that really quickly, just like you get so used to it so quickly that you start to want more than you should. And doing the rest of the steps kept me in my shoes and able to appreciate the world for what it is.
Well, I really like that reminder that, it's not necessarily easy, but it does get easier. That's a great reminder. Coming to you now, Brandy, and step 12 reads, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. For you, Brandy, what is this message?
What is the message of AA? That there is a better way of living should you want it. And that consists of not hating yourself. That is
awesome.
the message. Yeah.
Exclamation point. Awesome. All right, Molly, the Recovered Podcast is really about the new person. That's why we do this. So I'd like you to put that new person in your mind right now and talk directly to that person about step 12. What are you going to relate?
After having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, I would say to the newcomer to try to avoid having expectations or pressure around this quote-unquote spiritual awakening. Yep. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be a salamander presenting you with gold plates. It can be...
What?
I can tell you why that later. It can be very small. It can be a sunset. It can be like that moment where you like finally feel a moment of peace at the end of the day. So don't put your like too much pressure on yourself to have this quote unquote spiritual awakening. Just keep like working the steps and moving forward. And I think one day you'll look up and look around and not be able to recognize like your life for yourself. And it'll just, you've stacked together a couple 24 hours. And then that, I would say step 12 can be, you can start working it right away. Like practice these principles in all my affairs. Like as you're going through the steps and as you're going to meetings and hearing things that resonate with you, take it with you. Like walk out of the room with it. Like if it works, take it and apply it to your life outside of the program if it works and brings you peace or joy or brings others peace and joy. Like you don't have to wait long to start 12-stepping.
Coming up next.
This Week in Recovery, where we talk about what's going on at the home group and what's going on in the family room.
Don't touch that dial.
It's This Week in Recovery, but listeners, we're glad you're here for another edition of This Week in Recovery. Whether you're celebrating a win or navigating a challenge, we're in this together. Recovery is about so much more than what we have left behind. It's about the meaningful and beautiful life we build in its place. What's been going on in your life? What's happening in your week in recovery, Matt?
Well, I mean, realistically, here in Michigan, this is about the bottom of winter. This is about as bad as it gets. So it's miserable outside. I've been working on I guess I'm about 80 or 90 pages into something that I've been writing, and I'm just sort of hunkering down for the winter and getting through it. So
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. How about you, Brandy? Your week in recovery, what's been going on?
Well, this week, March Roundup is going to be visiting the hotel, the Motor City, so that we can get the lay of the land and plan everything. So if you haven't heard of it, it's March Roundup. It will be the first weekend of March at Motor City Hotel.
Fantastic. How about you, Molly? What's been going on?
Doing some, I'm just going to say it. I'm doing some interviewing and they've been going pretty well. And
awesome.
I'm feeling hopeful and excited. Ironically also like scared because of course like even good new change, I'm like, oh wait, I don't know. But that kind of teaches me or shows me that it's even more reason to plow forward and to try the things that are scaring me. And shout out to what Matt just said about once you hit a year that it's like, oh, I've done this before. I've done this date before because I have a sponsee who I'm immensely proud of, who will be, God willing, hitting 1 year this month. And we've just been, as she's getting closer, she's getting a little finicky and a little squirrely.
Yep.
But that's like I'm going to steal that, Matt, and just say to her, it's like, because once you hit it, you'll be like, you've done this day before. And it's crazy that Mark, I've told her too, like, 1 year is such a big deal, but at the same time, it's just another day. Like, and I'm excited for her. Very excited.
That's a big deal, though. The first Christmas, the first birthday, the first New Year's Eve, the first all those things. You've been through it before.
Got to warn her about leap year, though. That's the loophole. You got to do that one. It takes longer to get there.
All right, listeners. You heard what we think about. You've heard what we think about Step 12. Now we want to hear what you think. But first, let me invite you to become a content contributor to the Recovered Podcast. Now become a part of our show prep community by joining the Recovered Podcast Google group. You'll help shape our content through surveys and even get a chance to call in and share your experiences. Simply email me, mark@recoveredcast.com, or click the email link in the show notes to request an invitation. Matt, we did ask our listeners, what kind of 12-step work do you do? What do you think came in number one?
God, I don't know. Talking to a sponsor, maybe? Is that an option? Yep. I don't see the multiple choices.
Yeah, it's in there, but chair meetings comes in number one.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Sure. Been doing
All
it a
right,
long
now.
time.
All right, Brandy, we do have phone calls, and our phone call segment is brought to you by our Recovered Podcast Sustaining Partners. Our sustaining partners are a big part in our self-supporting movement. This week, Nicole made her sustaining partner monthly donation, so thank you very much, Nicole. Now, if you, dear listener, have experience with Step 12, well, we would love for you to call right now.
If you'd like to join the conversation and add to the content of the program, call us right now or use the voicemail button found on our website at recoveredcast.com. If you use our podcast app, just tap contact and then tap call the show and leave a message. Call 734-288-7510. We'd love to hear from you.
All right, Brandy, this is the time that we get to play the messages of phone calls that came in, and then I'll let you reflect on Ron P. And Ron is from Mississippi, and he is coming your way as soon as I refresh my screen. Here he comes. Ron, coming to you. Here we go.
Hey, good evening, Recovered Cast crew. This is Ron P. Brandon, Mississippi.
Hey, Ron.
Alcoholic. Calling in on the topic of Step 11. And I actually love Step 11. And I guess I'm just going to kind of like talk on it based on my experience with it and first thoughts that come to mind. And I know generally one of the things that always come up is what's the difference in prayer and meditation. And I guess I try to kind of stick with a more simple approach that my sponsor told me early on and that I've heard many times since then. And prayer is just simply the asking, and meditation is the spending time with, or thinking about what it is we just asked for. And currently, just one of the things I've been doing is an exercise with the prayer is going back through the chapters in the first 164 pages that more about alcoholism and how it works and working with others, and looking at the chapters and the word ask and locating the words ask throughout, and just kind of base a little prayer on what it is that I find in that paragraph. And it's really kind of interesting if you just take the pages 86, 87, and 88 of Step 11. If you just go through that section and just ask where it says ask, such as we ask God to direct our thinking, and asking that we divorce from self-pity, dishonest, and self-seeking motives. So in the mornings, I try to spend the time just asking the things that guides me in asking. And then I think meditation it takes on a whole bunch of forms. I've tried guided meditations. I've tried, formal meditation. I've done, I have some apps on my phone where I do some of the guided ones. I've done classes in it, but I think the most practical and one for me is paying attention. And if I pray about something, try to pay attention the rest of the day. Sometimes the suggestions or the answers can come in the form of another alcoholic or a perfect stranger that I come across, and it may come from a commercial, it may come from music, it may come from 1,000 different sources, it may come from nature. It's just if I'm paying attention, and some of the solutions and answers can come to me very strongly in meetings, where I can get some guidance and direction. And also, another thing I've been considering and looking at was I heard an old timer talk about that there's actually 3 elements to step 11 and in the work. And there's prayer, there's meditation, and there's a third one called vision. And the way he described it, and I like this, is, I can, ask God to direct my thinking by praying about that. God, please, divorce my thinking from self-pity, dishonest, and self-seeking motives, and think about that, and then go, take it an additional step further and create a vision around that. What would it look like if God divorces my thinking from self-pity, from dishonest or self-seeking motives? And, it may look something like me being of greater service, me making a different decision based on, helping another alcoholic that day instead of something that could be more self-serving. But he talks a lot about the vision, the third element, of step 11. And anyway, I've just found that very interesting for something to explore. So I guess I'll kind of wrap it up there. And, I just, I could talk on and on this step, but I think that's the most powerful things can come by simply just going to those pages in the big book and turning them into instructions. And that's what my first sponsor had me do. I had to write out index cards for the morning, midday, and then the questions for at night. And, powerful stuff can come from just those simple directions on those pages. So I hope everyone's doing good and staying safe and sober. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.
Yeah. Do you want me to? Oh, yeah. Okay. So, hi, Ron. What's great is my dad's name is Ron and my mom's from Mississippi.
There you go.
Wild. Yes. But yeah, so for me, prayer meditation, I agree with Ron. I think that prayer is the opportunity to ask, but also to give gratitude. So that's just an added bonus of having that conscious contact. Meditation, I would say, is my opportunity to listen. So if I've spent all this time praying, it's time for me to sit back, see what God has, or my higher power, your higher power, what has to offer by way of just clearing your mind and sit with the peace and, see what message you are provided. I think he said something really great about being at meetings. Anytime I'm having a rough day and I go to a meeting that particular day, I swear they always speak on what I'm struggling with. I will always leave a meeting feeling better than when I came. I think maybe once or twice in the 10 years I've been sober, have I not left that meeting feeling better, but I'm sure I went in with ulterior motives anyway. I was not going to let my higher power in that day. But yeah, you can get so much out of just sitting back and listening at a meeting, because that is the opportunity for my higher power to work through others to get to me. So yeah, I love everything Ron says. I could not quote pages in the big book. That always impresses me, but I appreciate that he has given me something else to look forward to.
Awesome. That's how it's done. All right. Chris from Chicagoland is calling in. Chris, let's see what's going on in Chicago. Here he comes.
Hello, all. It's Chris from Chicago.
Hey, Chris.
And grateful to share on this topic of Step 12. I find that Step 12 reminds me that, yes, we must give it away in order to keep it. It's a boomerang. aspect to the program. Whatever I throw out there tends to come back to me. And I know from using Tradition 1 for our common welfare, that must come first. My personal recovery depends on it. I get to attend to that first before I start carrying the message to other people. And this is not a Yoda program or, it says there is no try, Yoda language, but there is try, because it says it right in this step. We tried to carry this message. Now, I try to carry the message to the best of my ability, and that's where my focus gets to be, on the message, not the messenger. And I find that really beneficial, because sometimes the message comes from someone who can be difficult. I find placing principles before personalities the toughest part of the program, because some of my defects of character still come up. I judge myself and sometimes others, and it gets in the way. And yet, I can often get past that with prayer, meditation, making outreach calls, realizing I'm not alone, and letting people have their own path. There's not enough time in the day for me to work my own program and someone else's. So I do what I can when I can. To me, that's the essence of Step 12. And it's definitely not been a white light event. It's been very gradual, because I know for me, anything I've ever gotten fast, I've lost fast. And I just can't afford that. All right, everybody. Have a great week.
I think that's you, Molly. What do you got?
Thanks, Chris. I love the boomerang sound effects. Very well done. I really just like everything he had to share, and brought up a part of the 12 step that I forget, that it's we try to carry the message, and then that's all we can do. Like, we are not powerful enough to get someone to stop drinking, and we're not powerful enough to get someone to start drinking. Like, it's we will carry the message, and we will share it, and we will make suggestions, and that's where we have to then let go. So I like that part that I had sort of forgotten about through this conversation. So thank you, Chris. I also did some of my best drinking in Chicago. Whoop, whoop. Meaning the worst,
All right, Matt, we got Sam calling in.
All right.
It's been a while. Been a while since we heard from Sam. Here we go.
Hello. My name is Sam T.
Hey, Sam.
My sobriety date is May 17th, 2013.
All right.
And my sponsor is Steve N. This show has helped me stay sober by teaching me just what alcoholism is. When I first realized I had a problem, I went searching for education about alcoholism, and I found the Recovered Cast. I listened to it for a number of months before I came to the realization that I truly had a problem with alcohol. After getting into AA, I continued to listen to Recovered Cast, and they helped guide me on my journey through sobriety. I am extremely grateful for them.
Well said, man. Well, our fellow class of 2013 as well. I appreciate you.
Yeah, that's why we do it. That's why, geez, Sam, it's exactly what I needed to hear. So thanks for calling in. So remember, abandon yourself to God and admit your faults. Clear away the wreckage of the past and give freely. God bless, and see you next time.